All right. Oh, I probably should. Let's see what I look like. All right. This is what good looks like right here, people. Here we are. All right. Welcome to The Secret with Mr. Davis, but he's MIA tonight. He's got some business dealings with, but that's all right. I'm here to hold up the ship, and we got a real good one tonight, guys. We got someone from the Great North, right up above us here. I guess from Canada, huh, DJ?
That's where I'm living. Yeah, I'm originally from the Nordic countries. I'm from the
Oh,
Faroe
wow.
Islands, subsection of Denmark, but we're considered. But yeah, I've been in Canada a long time. I'm 50 years old now. I've been here 35 years.
So Canada has CPS, huh?
Oh yes, and they do the same kind of crap that they do in the states as well, and then some.
So
And
what's
this
going
is all new to me. I wasn't involved with them until they were involved with me, and then suddenly, you can't get out of it.
right? Because you thought that you were a good parent. You thought, I'm assuming that it was your children, or is it your grandchildren? What's going on with your
No, it's
situation?
my children. Yeah,
Your children.
yeah,
So you
yeah. My
you
three
followed
youngest.
under you followed under the whole theory that you're a great parent. You got nothing to hide. Everything's going to be okay. Justice will be
Mm.
justice. And you found out, just like all of us, that it's not the case. I'm assuming.
Oh, the hard way. Yeah. So now being on the back end of it, it's a very tiring process. It's been about 8 months, 9 months ish. Actually, now it's 9 months. But anyways, so I found out that this experience has come in three sections. The crash bang in the beginning is to just mass shock us, right? And we're so dumbfounded by what just happened to us. It's like a slap. We just don't know. So and they're coming in saying all these things. You have to. You have to. You have to. The second part of it was total confusion because whatever it is that I asked or we're asking for information, we're not getting anything back. Very confusing. A lot of terms that they throw at you that don't really mean things, and they just keep throwing this authority in. And then finally, the last part of it is action. And finally, when you actually start looking into things and you start doing something, then you find out how screwed up this all
What uh what allowed them to get into your life? What happened? What happened with your children?
is. So, what happened is mom and I were fighting off and on, and the kids were saying that hey, it's not fair that dad should be the only one getting into trouble. So, and the principal had said that my eldest son, who was 9 at the time, was looking not like his normal self. So why, son, are you not behaving like yourself? Oh well, my parents are arguing a lot. And in Canada, it's everybody here likes reporting everything because they've all trained everybody. I'm a former nurse of 23 years.
Yep.
And they train us to report things. They like it when we report stuff, and they want to protect the kids, right? Of course.
Hmm.
So
Well, you think, right?
yeah, so principal, hey, he thinks he's doing his job. He calls them, and they come and interview. And I didn't know. We didn't know that they were interviewed. They terrorized them into not telling us. So our kids are like suddenly behaving all strangely for 2 days. We were told on the second day. So this happened on a Wednesday when they went to interview, then terrorized them at school. We didn't know. And then threatened them at school if they told anybody. And then on Friday, they told us. And then they met us at the school, telling us that they were coming to take the kids. And they did arrive with police, of course. And then they arrived in our homes, and we were just in shock and awe, like, what the hell's going on? Like, oh, we'll tell you as soon as we come inside your home and explain it to you.
Mm.
And that's how they did, shock and awe all the way.
Yep. You let them. You
Absolute
open that
shock.
door and let them just walk right in. There's the authority. Come on
Yeah, I had
in.
no idea. I didn't know I had rights.
Right.
They're like, we have to do this. We are gonna do this. We have to do this. Well, the police are here, so we've all been trained, of course. All the movies and everybody, all those stupid damn TV shows have been flying on us for 20 years, telling us how great the police are and how great the children protection services and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
They trained us like guinea pigs, so we don't know
Mm-hmm.
we have rights. And it's
Yeah, they
shock and
dumb
awe.
us
And this
down.
is
They dumb us down. They dumb us
yeah.
down so that we don't we
So
don't
um,
we don't even realize. I don't know how it was for you, but I'll be honest, man. When before I got involved in this stuff, I thought anybody that had CPS involved in their life and they took their kids, that they were the scum of the earth people. I wouldn't, I didn't even want to give them a chance to even discuss with them because they must be such horrid people. And I'm going to be honest, I've been doing this for 2 years now. I haven't found one parent yet that I wouldn't think was a great person and didn't deserve to not have their kids. Like I haven't seen one parent that wasn't worthy of the death penalty or that was worthy of the death penalty. I don't see it because that's what they've done. This is essentially the death penalty is what this is when they TPR you. And
Yeah, because you get tagged, and this doesn't come off your record. And I didn't know that in Canada it's the same as with you guys. It's that once it's on the record, it's on the record. Like we
mm-hmm,
are already guilty of something against our children, and it's we're tagged. So I found this out uh, through disclosure, but I don't know where we want to go into the story. You've done quite a few of these interviews, so especially if you lead where you want me to answer the questions because the story is crazy and
yeah,
how
well,
they
I mean,
manipulate
hey,
us and
whatever,
just
whatever you feel comfortable with. You want, I mean, Mr.
oh, I'll
Davis
tell
isn't
it
here,
all.
and I'm not a superior lawyer like Mr. Davis, that's for sure. So, if you want to just get your
So
story out there so people hear, then I mean, have at it, man.
yeah, uh, when they first come in and they tell it when they come and take the kids or they threaten to take the kids or whatever it is they're showing up at your door, whatever the first initial contact is, they never tell you that you have rights and that there's certain obligations that they have to tell you. Um, my wife is also a nurse. She's still working, so both of us are professionals. So it's not like we were definitely dumbed down because I didn't know anything about CPS. But when they're showing up on your door telling you that, oh, we have these rights and we're protecting them and we're going to do this, and the police is behind you with guns, and when they're showing up, it's very threatening. So we don't know that they're obligated to tell you, just like with a warrant. It's the
Mm-hmm,
exact same procedure in their own policies, but they don't tell you any of this. So they just steamroll right over you. So one of the first things that you need to do, whoever's listening to this, if you end up seeing this, is don't let them get in the door. Just like
mm-hmm,
Darren said, that's the first mistake I did. I should never let them. I didn't know I had the right to refuse them because if I refuse them entry, they have to come with a warrant and they have to show. And a warrant is the same thing as, and I looked up our Canadian law for what it stands for, and it's the same stipulations for what a warrant is. They have to have irrefutable evidence of actual abuse before they can come in and enter and do
actual
whatever is
abuse,
actual abuse.
right?
And so for all your Americans there, the first thing you do is you tell them, no, you can't come past my front door, and no, you cannot see my children. And then there's a video of a guy who's very calmly talking to CPS and explaining to them why they can't just breach your rights. We have rights, and this is the same thing I realized. So my timing of what they did to us was horrific because it was just before Christmas, and our kids'
Of
birthdays
course.
happened to be around Christmas as well. So it happened on December. So they took the kids on December 7th. My son's birthday is December 21st. They had promised that this was just one of those things where they're bringing them to the family. So it was a voluntary action, supposedly. But they terrorized them. We couldn't see the kids and go visit them at our own relative's house, which was, literally 500 meters away from us.
Oh,
Not allowed to see them. I'm like, that's crazy. That doesn't make sense. So we're begging and pleading and begging, calling the supervisors and the supervisors and begging, can we not see our own kids for at least for, their birthdays? So they didn't let us know and give us permission until the day before. So we're all like, just, it's horrible. Christmas comes around, it's the same thing. We have to beg and plead for any time together. We're finally allowed the day together as long as we're supervised by our own relatives there. I'm like, how can you tell me this? I'm not understanding this. And this is an important point, people. Don't understand something because then you stand under. And when you go in
mm-hmm,
front of a judge, and that's the other thing, don't be afraid of taking this to a judge because you have the right for them to explain it to you. And don't you ever say that you understand something because
mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, you
understanding of the
overstand.
law. That's right. So basically we missed, and my next son's birthday was January 9th. The police never had done the investigations. Here, the police do an investigations. They're required by law to do an actual abuse investigation, but they all went on vacation. The social worker that for the CPS went on vacation 2 days after he took our kids. Nobody was covering. You call their service to get like, what's happening? And this is why everything took so long, because there's nobody backing anything up. They don't enter their notes in right away. It's not on record. It's not on file. But people, this is where you have to stop them. This is something called disclosure. You have the right to get disclosure from day one. So as soon as they come, and whatever it is if you already let them in the door like I did, on the second day, you go to their office and you have to fill out a form that says you want disclosure. So all you're doing is you're qualifying that whatever they've written down for why they took your kids, you get that from day one or day 2 or
Mm-hmm.
day 10, it doesn't matter. But as soon as you understand that you have the right to get that information immediately and they have to provide it to you, then you go
Mm-hmm.
in there and you ask for it. I didn't know that. They didn't explain that. So I had lots of issues with them. They were still interviewing the kids at school. It took 2 months to get the kids back. The allegations was so the actual allegations ended up being slapping their bums with a slipper a few times, and then threatening them with plastic hangers because the boys, we have 3 young boys between 7 and 10, were rambunctious, running around, bouncing everywhere. Uh, this wasn't our first contact with CPS. We had contact 3, 4 years earlier, related to some heavy bruising on the legs. The boys had done some boy stuff. Was cleared for all of that. File was closed. Didn't know, and then they show up, and you don't even know. They've already terrorized you.
Mm-hmm.
So disclosure is the tool here, and I did research in the U.S. I have a sister in the U.S. who's adopted 7 kids. She's very experienced at the legalities of children and protection because some of these kids were abused. So I asked her, and she explained that yes, you do have the right for disclosure immediately, just like here. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, people, they can request for their discovery, their disclosure, any of that stuff, but it's whether or not they're honest enough to give it to you, because that's what you get is you get what they want you to hear. Um, you can, and there's supposed to be laws. They're supposed to give it to you. I think it's like 20 days they have once you request it, and all of those
Right.
sorts. But you're not. You're only getting what they're going to allow you to have. And how do you know what is full disclosure or full discovery if you've never been involved in this before?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that.
and
That's
it's
the
scary,
problem.
and they do threaten you the entire time at every interaction and point. So,
Hmm.
so what ended up happening was that
Oh,
I
hold
just
on.
couldn't
Did you
put
have
up
a
with.
safety plan? Sorry, I don't mean to
Oh
interrupt you, but
yes, oh
did you have
yes.
a
So
safety
of course
plan?
they made a safety plan, and in that safety plan, once we had the safety plan, I said I didn't understand your points and your contentions. Can you explain them to me? The more I requested more information, explanations, the less they did.
Hmm.
Then of course I got upset. I'm a nurse. I'm not stupid. I thought I was smart, so I started putting everything in writing, um, and which is where you're going to have to go because once they've got them, you need to go to court. So there's no ifs and buts about this, and this is what I did wrong. I should have immediately just gone straight to court. Um, the further allegations and they made an allegations which has been proven false was I used a wooden spoon on my son. All 3 of them actually is what they did, and they had verified that this information was correct. I didn't know this until I went and got disclosure on the file from what happened. And once I started reading and reading it, I'm like, this information isn't correct. So I did. They want me to fill out forms to change the information. And anyways, I refused. Now I'm angry with them. Now I'm having meetings and raising my voice, and I'm angry. And I'm like, no, they're telling me that I have to behave in my own home because I'm their client. And I'm like, well, I'm not your client. This is my home. If you don't like it, you can leave.
Hmm.
So I was having quite arguments with them. The visits with them were getting rather hostile, and they agreed that this wasn't beneficial for the kids. So we started going for months, 1 month apart. At first, it was every week. Well, actually, from the first contact for the first 3 weeks, it was like every 2, 3 days. It was ridiculous, and at school. So after the safety plan, and I got angry with the safety plan because they wouldn't explain why and what gives you authority. So I'm still asking all these questions, and they're just denying everything, and they won't give you anything. And the more you ask, the more they won't give it to you. And then they start writing nasty letters back to you instead of answering things, because now everything is in writing.
Hmm.
But this is an important point also for everybody who's in this: write and write. And for me, it took for me to research the actual law that they're using to that they think that they're the authority to use. So once you actually read that, I'm not a lawyer at all, and the lawyers weren't helping me that I was asking for help, and that's another difficult thing because there's not many lawyers that are gonna lawyers work for lawyers. They don't work for you. I don't know
Hmm.
if most people understand that, but that's how the bar works. So the people they subscribe to a country club basically, and they work for each other, and that's how they all make more money. And the
Hmm.
judges are a part of that as well. But going back to this, if you do get a decent lawyer with a good heart, which I'm sure the gentleman of the show is, otherwise you wouldn't be having a regular show like this, because there are some good exceptions. Um, those
Yeah, Vincent's
those
pretty
guys will,
amazing.
yeah. I've watched a few of your shows now, which is so it's great. Um, and once you do get a hold of somebody, then you actually have some help. So you need to get your disclosure. You need to know what the heck they're saying and writing down. And this is how I found out that they lied. So in this case, they lied about the wooden spoon. So
Hmm.
my kids all, so we're willing to now go to the judge. Obviously, I never did this to my kids. Um, obviously, I would never hit my kids with a spoon. I myself was hit with a spoon with my
I
father
think
when I
we
was
all
my
were, weren't
kids.
we, back in those days?
I think so,
That
and a
was just
strap
common.
too,
That was just
and that's
common.
fine.
If it was in their
And
arm's reach, we were going to get spanked by it.
yeah, and we deserved it too, and there's
Of
nothing wrong with
course.
that. So, and that's how you curb the behavior, and that's what I was trying to instill in my kids. I don't do that. I don't, but I definitely did with the slippers. You're darn right I did. I slapped their little bums when they're getting too rowdy, and they haven't even broken a window in this house, to be honest. All they've actually done is broken a couple of couches and one TV, so it's not that bad.
Right.
So it's fine. Um,
It's slipperable.
it is just a slipper. It's not a spoon.
Right.
But and not hard either. No, but so they said I'd use a spoon on my kids, and I didn't know that that's what they had said, because that was in the disclosure, and I didn't get the disclosure until like 7, 8 months in, so a couple of months ago, and now I'm into action. It turns out in Canada that the social workers they belong to a college, and you can make complaints at their colleges on their behaviors, and then they do investigate, and that pisses off the social worker because now they know that you are going to do action against them.
Mm.
I started threatening. So they had told us that me and my wife could not be in the same house. We were causing too much fighting, and it's a danger for the kids. And I said, well, what's the authority you're using? So they started quoting all this law. So I went and read up on the law and got to understand it. And I said, well, you don't have the authority to tell me that I can't live in my own home. Because they did that. They came and checked. They even brought police checks a couple of times to verify that I was not in the house. Like, that's
Jesus.
crazy. I had to go live in my own garage over the winter, freeze my ass off, sleeping in the cold because I couldn't be in my own home. They want me to go and get an apartment and live somewhere else. This whole action, because it was so horrific for my wife and I, has caused me to quit nursing. I am no longer a nurse.
Hmm.
I'm unable to do my job. But what it did give me the time to do is to read up on the law and finally stand up for myself and my kids. And that's become a wonderful thing because I finally put my foot down a month ago, and I said, that's it. I withdraw my consent for your investigation and your participation in my life. I withdraw consent from the school. I went to the school, and I confirmed with the principal that he had never said anything about this wooden spoon. So luckily for us, there's laws against falsifying documents and falsifying things like that, and in Canada you get summary convictions on these. So I contacted the police and I started showing them the evidence because now there's a paper trail of them lying about it.
Hmm.
And I said to the CPS people that we are going to court, and their response was, we have child safety concerns, but not at the moment. And they've tried to keep contacting me, and I've had civil conversations with them, and I said that any further attempts to without a court order is going to have them in jail because that's harassment.
Hmm.
And so for the summary convictions, those kind of things, the complaints, you call their college of social work in whatever state you're in and find out how they're licensed, and start making complaints and make them pay for their actions. I'm making them accountable for their actions. And
Hmm.
the social worker who took the kids, that was his first case. He was less than 2 years in. He had to call the supervisor for everything. And because I'm so anal as a nurse and I want everything in writing. I just kept pestering them with you know, lots of questions and their responses, and I have so much paperwork of them just being nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids now, willing to go in front of a judge, and the judges are willing to hear my 10 and 8 and 7 year old. So I filed already. Today, I actually contacted the police for criminal charges against the social worker, and they took on the case and are actually starting an investigation. So there is hope, people. They're
Mm-hmm.
criminals when they walk in your door, when they're threatening you. And there are good police officers out there, and if you get one that will hear you out and you explain which section of the law, and that's the point. You have to know which section and which charge that you're charging them with, and they have no choice, especially if there's summary convictions, because that's an automatic conviction. That's my understanding of summary convictions. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that you're somewhat right there. I won't guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure that the summary is just as you said it. Um,
Yeah. So
so
the action part is just a matter of going to podcasts like this and listening to people and just picking up on information, because they just, if you don't start pushing back, and or like you even said, even better, don't even let them in the front door. That was my obvious
right.
mistake. And
I,
they lead the kids in the questions. It's you, and you have a right to record. I just started using that right
yeah.
a couple of months ago, and then,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, does that upset, that pisses them right off, and
Yeah, they
they
don't
don't need the questions anymore.
nope, they'll turn their
So
faces and they run away. It's great. It's great,
yeah,
great, great.
yeah.
What's Canada's recording laws?
So Canada's recording laws are the same as the states. You can record. You do not need a permission, especially if you're in your own home, and you can
Okay.
record on in public places, on public sidewalks, public buildings. They do always tell you that they have all these policies that you can't. Same as in the states. I love the auditors there. I watch a lot of those ones, and I've learned a lot from that. And just question police at every point. The police don't even know. They're just told that they must accompany and have the authority to do that. The CPS just lies to them, because the judge just signs off on their emergency orders, and once you have that emergency order is only valid for a certain amount of time. That's why they're pushing you so far. So if you put your foot down and you don't allow them to take your kids, and you just refuse to, go to jail if you have to, but
Mm,
refuse. And once you have that refusal, even if you go to jail, that's fine. Um, that time elapses, and now they have to go and get a warrant order, which requires a whole lot more evidence.
mm-hmm. Now, what's the standards of evidence up there in Canada? Clear and convincing, like here in the United States, or is there a different level? Or
So when it comes to whatever the other, so the physical evidence, I just saw somebody had said about making the complaint to the supervisor and complain against the supervisor as well, and I did in their cases, and the director of the CPS in our region, because they're all social workers.
mm-hmm.
I was just answering that question, and it's the same complaint that you would do against a regular social worker. You just do it for all of them, and just do it all at the same time. You can fill it out on the form. Is easy because you just substitute the names. You've already filled out the first part, and then just resubmit it, and then do it against all three. It really upsets them because it makes them accountable immediately to their colleges, and if you get too many complaints, they can lose their license, and they'll
Oh wow.
no longer be taking our kids from us.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the evidence, it's if the bruises are there and a physician says that this is definitely caused by the contact injury that was caused within like the last 3 days, those kind of things they would take from physicians. The bruises that my kids had were old bruises, and they were inconclusive, and they were not something that was within horseplay of today, or they're saying that I had slapped their bum that day and there was definitely nothing there. So they do the same kind of thing, but they don't explain it to the kids, and they strip them down and they take pictures. I don't think they strip them all naked at the same time. They do one portions at a time, but they terrorize the children. There's something missing in this, because we only hear from us, the adults,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids don't really speak about this. And my son, oh, I almost said his name. My middle son, the other day said to me, "Hey, Dad, I got to tell you something." And I'm like, "Oh, well, this sounds like one of those serious things." Yeah, he said the social worker said that if I keep listening to you, that he's going to take me away.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. And this is the reason is because I tell him off. I told them off for the last few months. I'm like, this is my home. You can't tell me that I can't speak in my own home. So,
Mhm.
you know, have your expression and you can say whatever you need to say and record, record, record. And then take all of your video, all of your complaints that you've done to their colleges, all the complaints you've done for whatever it is you complained to the police, whatever law they broke when they falsified a document against you. Those are summary convictions. So I have a solid case against them. Um, I had a what's called a legal aid because I'm not employed at the moment. I haven't been able to work, and you don't need a heavy-duty, expensive lawyer. You can do it with the paralegals. And all that really is just fill out the first portion of the court documents because they're quite lengthy, um, and they do make it hard for us to understand, and they because they think we're dumb, right? So you know what? Just pay somebody a couple $100 to fill out the long, complicated stuff. That's what I did, and then the rest of it is the evidence of all the complaints, and just pages and pages and pages, and then of course your kid's statements and willingness to go and polygraph. I said that to the police. Um, I'm not willing to pay for the service to prove it because it's like $1,000 almost
Mhm.
in Canadian. So that was like six, 700, 700 US. That's too much money for me to do it, but the court would pay for that if it's required.
Mhm. So when when was it that you got your children? You got your children back, right?
So yeah, it was 2 months. So I got them back in February 11th, and they
So
were
how did
taken
you
from
go
us
about?
December 7th.
So how far did you make it in
So
into
getting
the
them
court?
back, so they didn't know. So within the first 2 months and them actually coming back, it was just them dilly dallying around and kind of making up new conditions that they wanted met. And this was before the safety plan had ever come in play. At this
Hmm.
point, they're still because the police took forever. The detective was on vacation, didn't come back until January 15th. And when they saw us, they apologized to us, the parents, after because they said, "Well, we can obviously tell that you're good parents. You obviously didn't do these things that are alleged." And I'm like, so, and they talked to us. I had us a little sit down, and the two officers cried to us because they said, we see the bad stuff, right? We're the child abuse unit. That's what they do
Hmm.
for a living. You guys are good parents, so we've never seen this kind of thing before. So, and consequently, those are the same detectives that I went back to and requested their help, and they were just dumbfounded. They said they didn't know and they didn't hear anything about a wooden spoon, and it wasn't anything that they were aware of. So it's completely falsified. And that's the problem with CPS. They will lie and they will document lies, and they will
Yeah,
continue to do so.
you're guilty until proven innocent, and that's not
You
right.
are.
Like I don't know what it's called there, but here it's they substantiate you, at least up in the state of Maine. Now you don't even know about that hearing. They don't even tell you what's going on. They don't. You just get a letter in the mail one day that says that you've been found by some sort of court system that you're guilty to whatever degree of neglect and abuse. And sorry, so sad, but moving along, we're going to have an investigation on you. And if you don't have an attorney to sift through that BS with you and work your way out of it, you already coming in with one leg in the dirt, in the mud. How are you getting out of that? Like I'm substantiated to the highest degree. My situation had zip, zero, zilch, not one iota of anything to do with my child. Nothing. Not
It
any,
wasn't even to do
not
with your kid.
anything.
Wow.
So, but the letter actually says, and I quote, it says, "We will not be able to tell you in writing the reasons we have come to the decision to substantiate you from your child," so on and so on. Not be able to come to this decision. We won't be able to tell you in writing. Are you kidding me? So this just tells me that they're just grabbing at straws. They don't even know. But what they do know is that you put someone in a cage long enough, they're going to squeal, they're going to fight, they're going to do something wrong that gets them further along. And that's the problem. And that's what people don't understand either, is that you don't get to argue this thing the entire way through. You're arguing in separate stages of this fight. So what happened yesterday doesn't always matter anymore because you're fighting for tomorrow. And that's what they do. They take once you've been substantiated, that no longer holds bearing to why you are involved with CPS. Now it's their investigation period. So like they got you in 6 ways to Sunday, and it's all just lies. They take the narratives. On the narratives,
It
I
is,
might
yeah.
say, I did such and such a thing yesterday afternoon, and they're going to say, nope, it says Darren said he did such and such thing last Wednesday. Well, that might seem like a minute lie, but when you get to the end of it, it just blasts your credibility because everything that you supposedly had said is exactly the opposite. And then obviously they're very much more harsh on certain situations and other lies, like to the point where they'll say that you weren't feeding your child or you were neglecting him and they saw this and you caused this to problem. And it's disgusting. And then furthermore, with the domestic violence situation, it's absolutely asinine. The first thing they want to do, separate the family,
Yeah, that was
you
the
know?
absolute first thing they did.
Uh-huh.
They just lulled us into oh, it's just going to be with the family and everything's going to be okay and we're going to work together. We're always going to work together. These damn
Mm-hmm.
supervisors are always saying we're trying to work together. That's not true at all because they get funded. They get funding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they run as nonprofits and they whatever, but they have directors and managers of managers, and they have
Mm-hmm.
meetings and they get catered. It's an industry.
Yeah, and they have
It's not
paychecks and
because
bonuses and all kinds of good stuff.
yes, and they get corporate donations that they give out to the needy, to the kids. We so can you believe this? So they take our kids for Christmas, and then they have the audacity that, oh, well, you qualify for our victim child fund, so we're going to give you Christmas presents and a bunch of food vouchers and some money to wash your car and gas and excuse me, you take my kids and now you're going to give me a bunch of little presents.
Right. Thank you.
We
Thank you very
Oh
much.
my god. So
Sickening.
we did not give those presents to our kids.
Of
We
course
turned them
not.
around and gave them somebody else. They gave us a bunch of food and vouchers and all that. We did not say thank you at all.
No. What were you
And
thanking
they
them
were
for?
CPS is still so here they do so here it's a big corporate donations you get so they love giving this stuff. So they keep offering stuff. They put our kids through soccer, well, this silly little soccer camp. I made them go through twice. I've been fighting them. I've been fighting them now for 4 months straight, at every single opportunity, until I finally figured out that I should have just taken them directly to court because the court warrant that they are required to do once you elapse that time. Once you stop your foot, don't let them in the door. Once they have to prove everything within the, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on the words. Once they have to prove the bench warrant, and which is a higher degree of evidence requirements, and they have to prove it. Stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to come in and threaten you and do everything else, and they can, and they have the right. And this is another problem, which we don't really understand. Yes, they do have the right to come and check and ask the questions. Absolutely, they do. They don't have a right to infringe on your rights, your Fourth Amendment, your First Amendment, your Fifth Amendment, like every damn of those amendments, right? That's what they're for.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the right to do that. They do have a right to check on the safety of the kids. So that part you can assage and you can, you can tell them, you can display them, you can open up the curtains. There's my kids. They're clean.
Mm-hmm.
All this nonsense that for them to do a health safety check. Well, I'll say no, you don't. That they're not. That they don't have the right to do or authority to do. You can deny a safety check. Uh, do you need a warrant? I didn't know that,
Right. And
and
was
now I do.
what was your in imminent danger? What was the imminent danger that your kids were in?
Well, and that's what they used. They wouldn't tell us. And we kept asking, and they wouldn't tell us. And we
Mm.
asked it in writing,
Seems
and they
legit.
just skipped the question and told us how horrible of parents we were and safety. And every time we asked, they would flip the question. They never answered it in writing, never once. But it turned out that it was this wooden spoon that I used on all three of them that they had verified, which is the same thing as what you said. Once they verified the file, they will not change it, even though there's evidence to back it up. Even though there's 100% evidence to show that it's a lie, they
Mm-hmm.
will not change the file, which is fine. That gives me the right and authority to charge them with a criminal code, and they have summary convictions coming up, which I only know now. It took a long time to figure that out. But let's share that with everybody out here that you have way more rights than you realize. It's just that we've
Mm-hmm.
been taught for our entire lives growing up in these countries, the United States and Canada, to sit down, do what you're told. You're going to be taught what you're taught at school. Don't question anything. Do what you're told and go to work and work for us and earn your money and pay all your money in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And somehow,
Am I
again,
allowed to swear?
well, I mean, we can try to keep it at a
Well, okay,
minimum.
I'll
I
try
mean,
not to. But you know what I
just
was about to say. So,
only because the rules of the airwaves. I mean, if it was up to me, man, I'd say cuss like a trucker.
yeah.
Because you need to do that where are you? So you got your kids back now. Where are you with the stance with the CPS agency now?
So my stance with the CPS agency is get the fuck off of my land. You're not.
Hmm.
The next time you're ever gonna come and talk to me or my kids, you're just coming with a warrant, a bench warrant with complete
Hmm.
evidence. And their response to that in verbal only, and not because they refuse to put in writing, is we have child safety concerns, but not at the moment. And
Hmm.
I literally told him fuck off the last time, and
Hmm.
every phone call, because he tried calling me a couple more times. I was civil at it with him until he kept pushing. He has to see the kids. I said, you're only going to see the kids with a warrant, and I'll see
Hmm.
you in court, which is good because now I filed my suit, and the evidence is so long against I'm lying. The principal is now my witness, by the way, the one that they
Okay.
claim told them. So and this is the problem. This is what you have to do. And I called. So I had a meeting with the principal 3 weeks ago now, and I said absolutely they're not allowed, and you have to call me if they do, and the police will be called.
Hmm.
And the principal understands our rights as parents override their rights because I said they're already involved, and the law states, and I showed him the actual paper where it says in the law, and he had no choice but to acknowledge that. Oh, you're right. So so the principal's on my side now. He's not going to let them be involved, and CPS backed off as far as going and seeing them at school for the last 4 months. So you just have to keep pushing, and honestly, you have to go straight to court. If you have the money, do it. If you can afford a lawyer, do it. But don't let them in your door. I've seen some of these guys here saying about the 911 cases and things like that on police. The police have the answer to that, and this is going to happen to everybody, is that you need to have a qualified medical person to do a welfare check, a health check.
Hmm.
If you're actually coming in for a health check, fine, you can do a health check, but you, police, are not qualified to do a health check, and
Hmm.
you, CPS, are definitely not qualified to do a health check. So you need a paramedic, an EMT, an ambulance person, or a nurse is qualified to do a health check, and that's the law, and that's your law in the states.
Hmm.
So I didn't know that either, but my sister told me that. So this is good to know.
Hmm. I think that's one thing that we don't know as parents too is these laws are actually made so that it protects the reunification process in our homes. Title IV
Right.
funding doesn't say go steal these kids and we'll give you some money. It says exactly the opposite. That what's happened is discretion now has been put into the hands of the wrong people, and they're
Yeah.
using those vague terms that our forefathers and everybody else has left us throughout history and time to interpret what we thought these words would have meant and what they were towards, and they've twisted it around on us and they've made it their own, and now we're caught up in this nasty gaming system. I mean, imminent danger. What's imminent danger? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? I mean, it's certainly not your kid can't tie his shoe. It's certainly not being hit in the butt with a spoon. Like imminent danger to me seems like there needs to be a bomb squad, some military involved. Like imminent danger means we got something severe happening. And imminent danger is not happening in so many of these cases, and they're forcing themselves into these families under duress, signing a safety plan, because at that point you're probably just sitting there like, just get out of my house, just be gone with you. Sure, I'll sign this thing because you don't think that they're going to come back and check in on this. This is all new, like you said, and you're a
Yeah. You
good
have no
parent,
idea.
so it's going to be
You
that.
have you have
So
no idea what's coming,
right, and
and they
like you
just
sit
keep coming.
down. Yep. You don't realize, and that's the other part of not letting them in. But not only not letting them in, but if they happen to weasel their ways in, stay away from that safety plan. Get your lawyer on the phone. Don't sign something until you realize what you're signing and your lawyer has okayed you with it. I mean, you have to agree with that, right? Like my choice
Yeah.
was just don't sign it. I'm not signing because I'm not signing anything that.
So yeah, so that's what I did with the second plan that they tried on me, and I refused to sign it. But my wife is still terrified of them, and they're still trying to weasel their way
Mhm,
in contacting her, like outside. This is how manipulative they are. They know now that they're in court. They're
mhm,
going to court, and they're still trying to call her and convince her to back off and to work with them and and they're using lots of threatening language. They're texting her at work. They're calling her while she's at work. This is how they work. CPS will do
yeah,
this.
and then why is
They
that
will
not
hunt you down.
harassment?
Absolutely, it's harassment, and that now that's really hard to prove. Harassment's hard to prove, but falsifying documents is really easy to prove, people. And find the criminal code and the section code, and you take it into your police station, and they're not going to have much of a choice, especially if you have your disclosure. Your,
Mhm.
you know, what was the term again that they use in the
Discovery.
states? Discovery, yes.
Yeah.
So you have the right to request everything they've said, everything they talked to you about, the intake person, whoever took the call. Some places, some states are recorded, and you are allowed to have recorded. Um, so it's just a matter of fighting back. But we don't know when we get hit with by a sledgehammer that we have a right.
Right.
We just think the police are allowed to go and brutalize us like they do in the Terry stops,
Mhm,
which they still do every single day.
mhm.
So CPS is assume their authority, the same as the police. And for my understanding, the police and the CPS are all sovereign citizens. And they really think that the law does not apply to them.
Well, I mean, we're all sovereign citizens. Like that's just given. And we all have inalienable rights too.
We
You
do.
know, so there's
But
even a bigger
we
there's
live
the
in a police
greater
state.
there's the greater good here that we are fighting against.
We are fighting against a police state. And very soon it seems to be, it's going to be a whole lot more than a police state. It might even be a commie state soon. But that's besides the point. But
Right.
the rights that we have, we need to use them, or you're going to lose them, and we are going to lose them.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
fact that they just keep showing up at everybody's doors and terrorize them. So anybody out there who thinks you're a great parent, because you are a great parent, just remember that when they show up at your door or you get that letter, it's like it's coming out of left field. It's because somebody doesn't like you. Somebody called it in. Somebody has something against you. Oh, we have to investigate. We have to do a health and safety check. It's
Hmm.
gonna happen, and it's because you end up pissing somebody off. Once you get to 50 years old, I just turned 50 after all this. You end up upsetting some people, and people call in
Hmm.
and they're vindictive. And all the parents that I've met through going down to the agency and going to their offices, you're right. These are good people. I didn't see anybody in my interactions, and I've now been through CPS, and they force you to attend meetings and take courses, and on a stupid safety plan. And I did some of those things, and you meet all these parents, and you're right. These are good parents who have just been just fucked, seriously. And we are just somebody's money. That's all we are to
Hmm.
them. We're just money, and we're paying somebody's wages because they can do this, and they don't care. CPS doesn't care. They're never trying to
Hmm.
put the family back together.
No. Um, Furthermore than that, the destruction that they cause to not only the family unit, but the destruction. I always say, like as far as your child's name gets in the ears of others, that's how far they destroy, and that causes you to be isolated because it's such a shameful and embarrassing event that
Oh,
takes place. It strips a man of all of his manhood, his loins,
yeah.
his seed, his everything that he was put on this earth for. They take it away from them. They desensitize, and maybe that's why they desensitize on TV. People don't understand what severe um, hostility this is towards men themselves. Because look, you're a guy. Your job is to reproduce, and your job is to protect your family. And in a moment's notice, they've come in and they've taken the two things from you that you were put on this earth for. They've come
Right,
in, they
all of it.
swiped out your kid, and you couldn't protect them in the name of that. We're the only species in the whole animal kingdom that doesn't protect our young to the death. You know,
It's it was very emasculating, and it took many months, almost a year, to finally have the action, kind of like you almost alluded to, could kind of grow my balls back because they
Right.
got snipped that, and that's what it is. I've got to stand up. Enough. I've had enough. Put my foot down and threw them out. And you know what? You can cuss them as much as you want. We have freedom of right. We have a protected amendment for that. So
Hmm.
use your freedom of right. If they don't like you swearing, well, then you don't need to come to my house. If you want to
Hmm.
interview my kids, you're gonna be here. It's gonna be recorded. Uh, and never mind that it's really messed up my wife and I and our family because it is so shameful. Now we still have to
Hmm.
live through this. The only vindication, and it's not really a nice one, even though I'm gonna win, it's still not a win.
Hmm.
This has affected the entire family. The kids are now terrified of police and CPS and workers in general. Um, they've repaired the relationship with the principal, but I mean, whoever was reporting, if especially was in the school, that's going to be some damaging effects and lasting effects for the kids. You might have to
Of
move
course.
schools.
How do they trust anything ever again?
Well, they're not going to trust adults anymore.
Right. Or their parents, or any, like that's just my daughter's been gone, and I'll be, hell, come hell or high water, she will come home one day,
Yeah,
and I mean that she will. We will get her home, but the trust that she had for me as being her big strong dad and everything, that's not going to be there anymore because she knows that dad was there and she still got taken and went off on this horrible, horrible ride. And it's terrible that they do this to us. It's terrible that they make us look like such weak, feeble people. Because I mean, what are you going to do if they, like always said, I'll be damned if they're going to come in and take my kid. I would do this, this, or this. But the moment came and the moment went, and I did none of these things that I always swore and attested for. And is that because you are too, you just don't have enough cajones about it? Is that because your wits are right? What is it? What is it that makes us not defend our children to the all when these people come in and steal them, kidnap them from us?
Darren, I think that it really is the media and Hollywood. I made that point earlier about how they trained us. They literally have trained us on purpose. Um,
Hmm.
they fed us these bunch of lies that you know it's right for the state for it's better for the state to protect the public because we're too stupid to think for ourselves. So, and
Hmm.
this is happening up here as well. We're getting a lot of this public health nonsense. COVID really did that. So everything's public health, and CPS is doing the same thing. It's
Hmm.
in the public's interest that we take your kid because you
Correct.
might do something.
Yeah.
Well, I might also feed my kid too much chocolate, and rot their teeth out,
Hmm.
and you know, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
make them brush their teeth, and they're gonna.
And that caseworker might leave the house with your kid and get run over at the crosswalk. Like
Right.
these
Yeah.
life happens, and life is happening to these families, to families like yours, families like mine. A blimp in the radar of life. Something takes place that everything points to bad and all of that. 45 seconds for my situation. 45 seconds, my life is completely different. 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and and it's that I'm sure for a lot of people. It's like, man, but does the punishment fit the crime? Well, first of all, there's no crime. So how is there a
No.
punishment, right? And it's not even us that are getting punished. It's our kids. They're the
And
ones
they're
that are being
that's right.
neglected. They're the ones that are being stolen. They're the ones being put into these strange places with no support, nobody that they know. And how are people not standing up and saying, "What are we doing? Like, what do you think? What
We've
do you
been
think we
told.
need to do to make this movement move forward?" We only have a couple minutes left, but DJ, what do you think? What are your thoughts? You're a smart guy. What do you think we have to do to make this movement for everybody to pay attention to?
We have to continue these podcasts. We have to continue these TikToks. I think that I've started a new channel actually as related to this. It's called Truth Hurts, and I'm not throwing a plug in, but what I'm doing is, and I'm irritating the hell out of the CPS in my place, and also in other things. So I think that the best way is these TikToks because that's what the younger generation's catching on, and us,
Mm-hmm.
we were probably more YouTubers and we catch some of those things. I don't really do that anymore, but these damn phones on Facebook is always throwing these things. So I think that's the platforms that we need to be on. We need to reach
Mm-hmm.
the people and show them. and do little short videos of saying, hey, when they show up at your door, this is how we're going to save you. Disclosure. Don't let them in the door in the first place. You're right. After that is disclosure. Contact somebody. Get your evidence immediately. Put everything in writing. Document. And then kick them out of your door. You have the right. The next time they show up, they can have to have a bench order, a warrant order. So I think that we need to just educate them in shorter spans and give them, because parents don't know. We think we're great. We are good parents, and then we're being told that we're not. And it's too much of a shock to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost taken me a year to kind of man myself back up. But now I realize that whatever they've done to us and our kids, it's not going to define us as a family. Pardon me. I'm getting a little emotional here. Um, and we do have enough time to make a difference now. So we've actually rebonded, and we've really learned to each other that we have to protect each other. Now we don't. Now we don't. We don't trust anybody. We don't trust
Mm-hmm.
the police. We don't trust public health. I sure as hell don't trust my government. I don't
Mm-hmm.
trust my local government. And CPS, they can go to hell.
Mm-hmm. That being said, how much more can you say? DJ, I want to ask you this. Would you be willing to come on Men in Trenches with us tomorrow? Are you available?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
I have
Email
nothing better
Grace.
to do than to save my kids now and to make
Excellent.
these people accountable. And
That's
I
excellent.
am spending the next year doing this because although I am unemployed, I'm not. I'm okay as far as money. So
Hey,
my
you're a freedom fighter, my man. We're fighting for the
I
families.
am
You
now a
know?
freedom fighter, my friend, and I
That's
am
right.
loud and I'm pissing off a lot of people. And this is the way
I,
to do it. We have to educate ourselves here.
hmm
That's what it is.
So definitely. It's been great talking to you. Grace will be in touch with you. She'll send you the link for tomorrow. We
Okay.
got Men in Trenches at, let's see, it's 7 o'clock Eastern time. Um, I don't know what time that is your time, but we'll get sure with that. But yeah, I bet my partner Mike was going to love to talk with you, and we'll get talking more about all of this stuff. But as far as this one goes, Grace, let's hear some music. DJ, we'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern time. CPS, Men
Ciao.
in Trenches, but this is the secret. Have a good one.